And hi, thank you so much for taking this interview with me. So, can you first introduce yourself, maybe your name, and where you're from?
Yes, yeah, my name is Raj. I am originally from India. My hometown is Mumbai. Um, I am in New York for about 10 years.
Nice.
I went to school in upstate New York,
Okay.
um, and then I moved to New York City, and I've been working since then.
Okay, nice. So, I will ask you certain questions about like the vaccination.
Okay.
So, have you ever been vaccinated?
Yes, I have always believed in vaccines. Um, the flu vaccine is the one that I used to take
Yeah.
every year. But since the start of COVID, I did take the first vaccine as soon as I was eligible for it.
Okay.
So I think it was March of last year when the people of my age group
Yeah.
uh, became eligible, and I took the first shot right away, and that was I think the last week of March.
Oh, okay.
And the way it worked was, I think they scheduled a 3 week
Oh, yeah.
a 3 week follow up for
Yeah.
the second shot. So I took the second one, followed by the first one in 3 weeks.
Okay, nice. So, like, to be clarified that, so how many shots did you take in total?
So yeah, in total, I took the fourth one last month.
Okay.
So the two shots, and then I took the booster last
Okay.
December, and then I took the fourth shot, which is again a booster, last month. So
Okay.
total of 4 shots.
Okay, so nice. So, which company is that, like the vaccinate?
So I think so when I took the first shot, we were at a point um, when people didn't have a choice. People, even if it's Pfizer, if it's Moderna, whatever it is, um, based on the availability, it was given. So I think for me it was Pfizer.
Okay.
So my first shot was Pfizer, my second shot was Pfizer, and then my boosters were Pfizer too.
Oh, okay.
So all my 4 shots were Pfizer, basically.
Okay, so how did you find out like about the vaccine and like especially for you, you take the Pfizer. So how did you choose to take Pfizer? Is there any reasons for that?
No, I mean, like I said, it was based on the availability.
Okay, yeah.
So the way it worked was, so the city of New York arranged for a mass vaccine site.
Yeah.
So it was Javits Center.
Okay.
So we were given the schedule, and based on what's available for that day, they will give you. So no choice basically. So
Oh.
Pfizer was given to me, so I didn't make that choice,
Okay.
and I was open for anything, whatever is available.
Okay.
So Pfizer was given to me, and once it is given, I think the boosters would normally be the same company. So I think that's
Yeah.
how it works. So that's how I got on the Pfizer boat, basically.
Okay. Nice. So you mentioned that you took it in is it a center or hospital in New York?
Yeah, I think Javits Center is a
Yeah, Javits Center.
Javits Center is uh, it's sort of like a public arena.
Oh, okay.
So the city of New York had turned that into a mass vaccination site
Okay.
because at that was almost like in the middle of the pandemic, right? Like
Yeah.
March of last year.
Yeah.
So I think the hospitals and it was pretty much based on how they can distribute the vaccine.
Yeah.
So New York had like multiple mass vaccination sites.
Yeah.
Javits Center was, I think Javits Center was one of the closest one for me.
Okay.
Accessible by public transportation, etc. So
Oh, I see.
uh, that's 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 what I picked
Okay.
based at that point in time.
Okay. So did you like walk in or just you have an appointment
No,
on that day?
there were no walk-ins.
Oh, okay. Really?
They had given appointments.
Ah,
So
I see.
you were given a time slot,
Okay.
not even just the day. You were also given a specific time slot. So you have to be at that time,
Yeah.
or else you lose your turn and you would have to reschedule it.
Okay.
So it was a specific time slot everyone was given.
Okay. So is it voluntary or is there any requirement for you to take that shot?
No, it was pretty much, there wasn't like any requirement. I was working from home at that
Okay.
time, so nobody required me to get a vaccine. I got vaccinated on my own, and primarily because, the, uh, I always believed in the medical science advancement. And like I said, I've been taking flu vaccines every
Yeah.
year when the flu season is around. So I have always believed in vaccines. So it was a no-brainer for me at that point. So as soon as the vaccines were available, I said, yeah, I'm gonna take it.
Okay. So it's more like a self-protection or
Yes.
like a
Yeah, totally.
prevention?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I volunteered,
Yeah. Okay.
and at that point, it was a no cost vaccine because I think the U.S. government sort of paid for the vaccination, so it was basically no cost. Um, and also, when vaccines came around, that's when some of the outdoor um, restaurants started having outdoor eatings,
Yeah.
etc.
True.
But uh, uh, they required you to be vaccinated,
Yeah.
and it was not their choice. It was basically um, the laws at that point. The city of New York had made a law that if you have to dine in a restaurant, you need to be vaccinated and you need to provide the proof of vaccination.
Okay. Yeah.
So, even though I volunteered, I basically, during that point in time, some of the places really required you to be vaccinated.
Okay.
Like, I mean, work was not an issue for me because I was working from home.
Okay. Yeah.
And since I work in the software field, all I need is a laptop, so I don't really have to be physically in an office um, to work. So, but there were some there were some mandates by the city,
Yeah.
like if you have to be in a specific area, um, I think you had to show the proof of vaccination.
Yeah.
So it helped. I had my social life because I was vaccinated. I could do that. People who were not vaccinated were, uh, denied entry to a restaurant.
Yeah. True.
So yeah, so that was like a plus at that point in time.
Okay. Yes, I totally get that. So, you said you take the booster, so you take all 4 shots in the same place or
No,
different place?
so the mass vaccination site
Yeah.
was only open for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
So I got the first and the second shot at the Javits Center. Um, but when the boosters were available, then again, there were shortage. So the first priority was for a specific age group, mostly for people like older,
Yeah.
and people who have like medical conditions, etc.
Okay.
So when the boosters came out, I was not eligible for the booster right away. Uh, but normally I do like a annual physical exam every year. So I went to the doctor last December for who's my who's my family physician. So whom I see once a year at least. You do the blood work, etc. So I went for that appointment with my family physician, and he said I'm eligible for the booster, and he has a booster,
Oh,
so
okay.
he can give me the booster vaccine. So I took the so normally I'll take the flu vaccine whenever I see my doctor. So last year I took the flu vaccine along with the booster. So that was the first booster, but the third shot technically.
Okay.
So that was in December of last year.
Oh, okay. Thanks for sharing that. So, do you have any feelings or concerns like before getting vaccinated?
Well, there were a lot of conspiracy
Yeah.
theories, right?
Right.
There were people saying like all sort of things, right?
Yeah.
People were saying, maybe you may not have the ability to have children in the future.
Right.
But I trusted what the doctor said. I asked my doctor, uh, "Is this safe for me?" He said, "This has been tested.
Okay.
There is a small risk, as with any vaccine or any medication or anything. But this has been tested. mRNA technologies uh, been around for many years, though it was not widely used for vaccines, etc. Um, so you know, I decided that I should listen to the experts instead of just a conspiracy theory that's on the internet.
Yeah.
So my doctor is saying it is safe, uh, and I follow, WHO, excuse me, etc. All the medical journals, etc. So everybody said it is safe. So I felt there is no reason for me to be concerned.
Yeah. So just to clarify that. So you mean doctors? You mean that the doctor, personal doctors, or um, the doctors in the hospital? So you just went to hospital?
Yeah. So basically, the doctors whom like Dr. Fauci, for example,
Yeah.
right? So he's on television.
Oh, okay.
And I would follow those news conferences very closely because at that point in time,
Yeah.
the information was um, there are like tons of information available on the internet, but you don't know which one is right.
Yeah.
So Dr. Fauci was, sort of like the best source. Uh, and then I also followed WHO press conferences where they repeated the same thing, saying vaccines will save lives, vaccines are meant to save lives, etc. And plus, my family physician, whom I've been seeing for many years, had said it's the right thing to do. Get vaccinated, develop that immunity, stop the spread. Save lives, save not only your life but save others' life also.
Yeah.
So yeah, that gave me some level of comfort. When the experts are saying that, hey, the vaccine is 100% safe. I mean, not 100%, nothing is 100%, but 99%.
Yeah.
There's 1% chance that something could go wrong, but yeah, you take that chance in your life. So.
Okay. So, how do you think that during the process of getting vaccinated? So, do you feel that? How did you feel like once you get vaccinated? And also the following shots.
Yeah. So when I normally you have to answer a few set of questions, right? If I have allergic reaction
Yeah.
to medications before, etc. When I took the vaccine the first time, I think one of the questions I had to answer was, am I allergic to medications or vaccines
Yeah.
in the past? So my answer was yes, because I'm allergic to medications, certain medications.
Okay.
So what they did was, after they gave me the vaccine, they had me wait in a waiting area for about like 30 minutes.
Okay.
That's sort of like post observation, because I'm at a risk of developing maybe a reaction to the vaccine, right?
Yeah.
So I was made to sit in a waiting room for like 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But I was perfectly okay. There was no reaction. I walked out of Javits Center. I took a subway back home. I was perfectly fine. Yeah, but what I was told is I might get fever, I might get shivers at night, but nothing really happened. I was totally fine. Um, I just went about living my daily routine.
Oh, nice. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries.
After that, did you talk to anyone else about like you're getting vaccinated? So if so, what's their reaction about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you tell your friends that you got vaccinated, so they had few questions, um, like basically the same question that you asked, like how did I feel
Yeah.
um, after getting vaccinated? And some of my friends had got vaccinated at the same time as me, so we just spoke about our experiences, uh, and things of that nature. I'm not really from a medical field, so I don't know the details of the vaccine to tell anybody. But I just said that, hey, um, maybe we may have to live with COVID for some time, and we may have to get vaccinated because we are not naturally developing that immunity towards this virus. And this virus sort of kind of gets different people in a different way. For some people, it is so mild that they don't even know they are sick, and for some people, it is so bad that they end up in a hospital. So, I think it's our personal body type, the way the vaccine or the way this disease impacts us, and most of my friends had the same opinion as me that they should take the vaccine. And I mean, I had a couple of friends who said either um, they were religious, so they cannot take the vaccine. And I remember one of my friends said uh, their doctor said he cannot take the vaccine. So I think it was personal for everybody. But overall, most of my friends, uh, my family, we all got vaccinated as soon as we got the chance, and as soon as we could, um, you know, become eligible, or those kind of things. So, yeah, most of the people I knew are vaccinated now.
Okay. So the following up question is that Raj, did you get COVID? Like, did you test it positive?
Yes, so I took the first shot, the second shot, and I had also taken the booster last December. Um, but I think June of this year, um, when things were sort of normal, people started traveling outside of the city, etc. So I went to Florida. I went to Orlando for Disney. So that was in June of this year, and when I came back, I started developing symptoms, and I was hoping it is not COVID, but I got tested. I got tested with a home kit, and it said it's negative. I don't have COVID, but I had persistent symptoms. So I went outside. I got tested in one of the um, testing centers, which is on the van, like a mobile testing center. They tested, and then they emailed me the result, which was positive. So I tested at home again, and the home kit also showed that I'm positive. So, but I had mild symptoms. I had cough for like half a day. I had fever. I had body ache. But almost all the symptoms went away in like 3 days.
Okay.
And the guidance at that point was I need to quarantine only for 5 days from the day I got tested positive. So I followed the guidelines and I quarantined myself for 5 days in my apartment. So basically, I live in a studio, so there wasn't anyone else with me, no roommates or anyone, my family members or anybody. So that worked out. I just quarantined in my apartment for like 5 days, and and the guidance said that I don't even have to retest because 5 days, after 5 days, I'm not contagious, basically. So it doesn't matter even if I test again and if I am still positive, I'm not contagious, so I can still uh, end the quarantine. But I should wear a, like an N95 mask at least for like 2 to 3 days when I go outside after 5 days. And yeah, I possibly stepped out a couple of times um, with a mask on. And yeah, that was, I think it was pretty simple. The instructions, the guidelines were very straightforward and clear. So I just followed along, and I had no, uh, it wasn't really bad at all. And I would think the vaccines played a role, and the symptoms were mild, partly because I was vaccinated completely.
Yeah.
And also it was the Omicron variant, I think,
Yeah.
which became very dominant at that time and which would spread rapidly as compared to the other variants in the past. So it was the Omicron, which was mild, and I had some post-COVID symptoms, like I had uh, lost my taste, smell, etc. But everything came back in a few weeks.
Okay. I see. I also got vaccinated. I also tested positive, so I
Oh, did
also
you?
yeah, like the self protection for 5 days.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
did you think that your company, like the workplace, like if you get positive, do you need to report to them and then you're free for the work? I mean, you do not need to work during the workday.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I was working for my company. I was still working remotely when I got vaccine, and when I got tested positive for COVID. So, so obviously I had to tell my manager, because I didn't feel like working, and even though the symptoms were mild, but my head was heavy. I was feverish. I was not in a position that I can sit at my uh, desk, even in my apartment,
Yeah.
and do my regular job. So I did tell my manager that I'll be taking a couple of days off.
Okay.
So yeah, and at that point, anybody who tested positive for COVID was normally um, gone at least for a week. So, but for me, it was like half a week. Like I think I did work for like 2 or 3 days, and then it was like a weekend. So it like together I had like 5 days to rest, anyways. And then on Monday I was back. I was logged in. I was working. I continued to work from home uh, for 2 weeks after I got COVID. But at that time frame, they started reopening the office. So at 2 weeks from I tested positive for COVID, because the offices were open, so I started going to office.
Okay. So you mentioned that you went to Orlando Disney
Yes,
and you get positive, right?
right.
And is there any people like how are they wearing a mask? Like how do they do their COVID related actions?
Yeah, I think it's widely cultural difference between New York and Florida. I think uh, you know the political views were also different. So I think in Florida, you would not see people wearing masks as much as people wear in New York. So when I was out in Orlando, Disney was pretty crowded. It takes like 2 hours of standing in the line to get on a ride, etc. So it was the same situation, and there were a lot of people basically everybody was on mask. I would say like 5% of the population over there are, you know, would actually put on a mask. So the culture is very different, and I continued wearing a mask. At times I had to take it off because, I'll go to a Starbucks, I'll have coffee, I'll dine outside, etc. So those were the times I would take my mask out, but I was primarily wearing a mask. Um, but I'm pretty sure it was either in Disney or maybe it was on the flight back home, um, because it's really hard to tell where did you get it from.
Yeah.
So it was
Sure.
either, I can't tell, maybe it was on the plane or maybe it was in the airport in New York. Um, but I can tell it was related to that trip, because right after I came back, I started showing symptoms of COVID.
Okay, I see. So after these questions, I'm gonna show you a video.
Okay.
So the context is that this video is happens in China and in a very north place, northeast of China. So it's
Okay.
like a snowy day and you can have the storms and the weather is very severe and there are many people like um, getting in line to get vaccinated. So I'm gonna show you this video and can you tell me your thoughts about that?
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
This is for vaccination or getting tested?
No, it getting tested.
Getting tested.
Yeah.
It's insane.
They're waiting for like getting tested
Uh-huh.
one by one, and then they can get the results maybe in 2 hours, and you can get the results if you are positive or negative.
So is this a mandatory? People were forced to test, or are they testing because they think they might have symptoms?
Both, but more is they're required to do
It was a mandate?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm assuming when this video was filmed, there was no home kit in China, right? Home testing kit.
that. There's home test,
There is,
but it's
but
not that valid.
okay.
And if you need to, if you go to the shopping mall and you go anywhere, you need to show the official results of your testing,
Okay.
and then the results are automatically transferred to the a QR code because it's maybe if you're green, so you can pass anywhere anytime. And if it's not, it's red, so it means you are negative or
Okay.
you are positive, and then you cannot go anywhere.
Okay.
You need to go to the hospital.
So basically, you can't um, put that in a person's record if they
Yeah.
just tested at home, right? You have
Yeah.
to test, like somebody who's authorized has to test it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is crazy, but I think most part of the world, this sort of thing was seen during COVID. Like in New York, there were lines outside the grocery store. Um, there were lines outside vaccination center. Like Javits Center has had a line to get inside, and um, there were seats inside. But um, I mean, we see this kind of line like everywhere in the world. Like even in my home country, when vaccinations came out, people were lined up to get vaccinated. People were lined up to get tested like this. So yes, this was seen in many parts of the world. So I mean, as much as I feel sad, but I think um, the pandemic was brutal, now in a way, and
It's It's been 2 years, and this video is just shot recently.
Oh, this is like a recent one?
Yeah.
Okay. I think what is happening is the rest of the world went through first and China is going through now because China had very strict quarantine rules and uh, I think things are very organized, but I think somehow the COVID cases made through at this point in time. So I think most of the world went through before, like last year, in China, and I think at this point in time, what I heard, I'm not sure. I've seen on the media that the Chinese government has relaxed COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
Like there is no mandates anymore, like you can travel, etc. So the COVID cases have gone up, and people are getting tested now because maybe people whom they saw yesterday got tested positive, so they might think that they are positive, so they want to get tested. I mean, yeah, I get it, but many uh, many parts of the world are getting back to normalcy. Like India seems like almost COVID free right now. Like uh, nobody's getting tested. Hospitals are not getting any cases. Even in the United States, I think majority of the people are vaccinated, and even if they get COVID right now, I think it's pretty mild. But I think it's a very different story in China because of the strict COVID regulations. I think a lot of people never got COVID until now, but but I think with the relaxation of the rules now, because people are free to move, um, I think that potentially, you know, puts people in the risk of catching this disease, I think.
Yes.
But I have a question. Is the vaccination in China
Yeah.
not as good as the vaccination in the US? Is that true? Or is it
Um,
the same vaccine and people don't have access? Or like what is the situation? Like why are people getting tested positive at this point in time? Like this is post vaccination stage, right?
yeah.
Like if vaccinations were available widely and people had taken, a lot of them would have developed immunity. But why the sudden rise of cases right now? Were people not vaccinated?
Yeah, actually, many Chinese people get vaccinated, and Chinese vaccine is different from American vaccines.
Okay.
I would say that it's milder than the Americans ones.
So it's not that effective like the Pfizer mRNA.
I think, yeah, maybe Chinese is kind of like more conservative.
I
So
think it's the
the
traditional
effect,
vaccine, I
yeah,
think,
the
yeah.
tradition. So it may be it not be like immediate effect
Got it.
like America. So there's many people like worry about the vaccines, like the cases. So many students will come to US and take US vaccine
Okay.
once they get here because you know the availability of the US vaccine.
Yeah.
So in China we can only take some international vaccines, but certain US vaccines they are not available.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in general, are people like open for vaccination,
Yeah.
or there is no religious belief or anything that sort of thing, right? Yeah. Okay.
So thank you for that. And last question is that for you know like staying in New York, there's still amount of people like certain amount of people not getting vaccinated until now.
Mhm.
So how did you see this situation and maybe what's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I am pro-choice, right? So people should have the ability to make their own decision if the vaccine is not for them, you know. I respect that. I mean, it's their choice, honestly. Um, but at the same time, I would urge people that they consider taking the vaccine. Um, but I know people have certain religious belief um, because of which they cannot take a vaccine. They may have a different political belief, which may also prevent them from taking a vaccine. So, I mean, we live in a free country, so everybody has to make that personal choice. Um, but as far as I am concerned, I am, you know, vaccines have worked for me. Um, but if someone decides not to get a shot, not to get vaccinated, I think it's their personal choice. I think they just have to be more careful until this virus sort of dies down. That's what I think.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for your time for taking this interview.
Sure.
I'm really appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Sure, I'm glad. I'm glad you gave me this opportunity to talk. Um, it's great. It's great. I'm glad I was able to share my experience, my thought, and I hope it helps.
Yes, totally. Thank you so much.
Thank you.